And you know what? We are pretty much at the top of the hour, so I'm gonna get started. So away we go. So welcome everyone to What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times, episode 42. My goodness, 42 episodes and we're going strong. My name is Colin Weston. I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver, and Startup Vancouver is one of over 40 community chapters of Startup Canada across the country. And as you can see with the sign behind me here, what we do, why we do it is to connect entrepreneurs with each other, to resources, events, mentors, both locally, regionally, and nationally. And what we do with our little show here is just one way that we make that magic happen. So on today's show, super excited. We have three, I think this is as diverse of a guest list as we can possibly have today. So I'm not going to do a spoiler yet. Because the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. And I think I've got this right 5 times in a row. Let's see if I do. Reza, I always ask you.
You're good.
Holy smokes. I'm not going to jinx it. I've managed to get this. I got a streak going here. Going to keep it alive until some technical disaster happens, maybe in episode 43. But episode 42, here we go. So this week we have Brenda Irwin, who we've had involved with Startup Vancouver as one of our speakers during our Van Startup Stories events. Love her story, love what she does. I'm just going to hold off saying a little more of what she does as the managing partner with the Relentless Venture Fund. And today we have a treat for you. Gary Lachance, who is the founder of the DDP, Decentralized Dance Party. That's all I got to say about this right now. Unbelievable what he's doing to bring the world together. And I believe their ultimate goal is to win a Nobel Peace Prize in awesomeness and fun. And we're going to talk about that today. Our good friend Keith Ippel, who's founder and CEO of Spring Activator, case back all the good things that Keith is doing with his unbelievably passionate team there in the social impact entrepreneurship space. So it's going to be great to catch up with Keith. And of course, with my co-host Maryam and Reza. And what I'm going to do to start our show off is what we've been doing the last few weeks is we have a segment called How You Hanging In There? So I start by asking, is a great way to introduce and catch up with my guests, or excuse me, my hosts here. And I'm going to start with Maryam. Maryam, how are you hanging in there? How's your week gone? How are things? And what's one thing that you're grateful for, even some small thing that happened today that you want to show some gratitude towards, and how are you hanging in there?
I'm grateful for continuing keeping my tiny habits. Since December 30th, I have incorporated 6 new healthy habits, and it's still going. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's talk on mental health.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I will talk about that in one moment of what we have going as part of our Can Startup Stories Speaker Series. Before we do that, Reza V, our good friend and co-host, how are you hanging in there, buddy?
I'm hanging here all right. It's been a few weeks. Every time you ask me that question, I tell you guys about the chaos that we had at OVU, and it's all scaling, keeping me up at night. And I keep talking about be careful what you're asking for, because you're going to get it at some point. Today, I wanted to put an ask out there just in case people are watching. OVU is hiring because I need to delegate some of this work. We are scaling. If you guys know a bright, motivated person that doesn't need training, can teach us how to do things as opposed to us teaching them. Definitely, we need people in development, in marketing, and specifically one area we are hiring right now is operation and support and laying out a customer journey there. If you know someone that can help, definitely send it my way.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Reza, make sure you put in chat on Zoom here and also in comments on Facebook.
Yeah.
That ask, you know what? You always have to have an ask there, and it's certainly usually not money. It's something else to help propel ourselves forward here. As you're looking to scale up, or not looking, you are scaling up OVU very quickly here, and I'm excited for you, buddy, for that. So Startup Vancouver, best way to connect with us. We're very active on social media. So whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, also our LinkedIn community page there, that's where we post all of our events and all of the events that either we co-present or also we support, like the wonderful things that Spring Activator is doing. Love to give them a shout out because we truly believe in not competing. We're about collaborating in partnerships. And that old adage of a rising tide lifts all boats. we certainly believe in that. And in our innovation sandbox here in Vancouver, we don't want all the toys. Lots of toys to go around for everybody in the sandbox, and we like to share them. And that's what we do. We also have our YouTube channel up and running. So every episode we've done, the previous 41, every one of them is there. So we've got over 100 guests, 100 great stories. In fact, this will be the second time Keith will be on telling his story with what's going on and keeping him up at night since we last spoke a while ago. And you can see we're at 96 subscribers. We only need 4 more to reach that magical 100 mark. So hey, if you want to show us a little bit of love here and you want to actually receive some free, awesome content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's my ask for today. Reza had his, I've got mine. One thing I do want to mention also is tomorrow will be our first Canned Startup Stories speaker event of 2021. We're going to be doing 6 of them this year, every 2 months. And for the second year in a row in January, our theme is mental health awareness for entrepreneurs. And look who's there. So our good friend Maryam Mobini will be one of our 6 dynamic and diverse speakers tomorrow, sharing not only their personal journey with mental health, but also the entrepreneurial side of that, of what they've done with their business and what they're passionate about and how that crosses over and informs us of what it is that gets them going. So looking forward to that. I'm also going to put the link into that. That's free to attend tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. So please join us for that. This is meant to be an interactive and engaging hour of conversation. Although our 3 hosts will be talking to our 3 guests for about 10, 12 minutes each, we then open it up to our audience, both on Facebook and Zoom. If you have any questions, please put them in there. Hey, if you're not so shy and you want to open up the mic or even turn on your camera, we're game for that too. So just let us know in chat. We'll be following that the whole time. Did want to mention also quickly here our charity partner that we are very proud to have with us, and that is jack.org. And jack.org is Canada's only organization, charity that supports mental health for youth and provides them the tools and empowers them as advocates and ambassadors in their schools and in their communities to be the ones that help raise awareness. We've managed to raise over $900 so far through our show here. We're going to keep going strong. We're almost at 1,000. So I don't know if we have any donations today. If we do, I'll check. You'll either get the opportunity or you'll have to endure me singing as I do with a shout out. So that may not happen today. I'll have to see if there's any last minute donations there. So also with Jack, they do have their big fundraiser that happens on May 29th, which will be a virtual ride this year. We'll also post this information here. Love you to participate in that. So very quickly here, as I mentioned, I'm going to end the show at the last third here with Keith and I are going to have a conversation about all the great things that he, his team, and Spring are doing globally for social impact entrepreneurship. And in the middle, Gary Lachance, who is the founder of the DDP, the Decentralized Dance Party. He's going to be having what I'm just braced for is going to be an amazing conversation with Maryam. So stay tuned for that. But to get us going here, Reza and Brenda Irwin are going to have a conversation about all the good things that she is doing as a managing partner and director with Relentless Pursuit Partners and the good things that they are doing. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. I'm going to quickly go to gallery view because I don't think we've seen it yet. I know we're going to start off here with Brenda and Reza, but we're going to play a game here. Which one of us is Gary? I don't know. It's pretty much any of us here. So Gary, you look amazing. Can't wait for that conversation, but I will turn it over now to Reza and Brenda to get us started here today.
Gary, I'm excited for the positive energy you're bringing to this group today. Brenda, thank you for joining us. Brenda Irwin is managing general partner at Relentless Ventures Fund. I want to know a little bit about your story, how you got into health and technology, and the awesome stuff you guys are doing.
Thanks, Reza, and thanks, Colin, and the whole Startup Vancouver, Startup Canada community. I've been a health investor for many, many years and used to work in investing in drugs, devices, and diagnostics, what I call the traditional origination story for venture investing in health. And 8 years ago now, made a decision to develop first of all, made the decision, tried to figure out how the best way to execute that decision. It took about 3 years where I wanted to identify how to get more money flowing into both preventative health and also what I call proactive health, i.e. managing life, even if you have a chronic disease or a chronic condition. It's a very underserved market. It has been for decades. So part of, I won't do the spoiler yet, but I launched Relentless with Simon Whitfield before we started the venture fund. He and I and another individual spent a couple of years investing in what would best be described as more consumer focused sport, a little bit of health tech, thinking that that's the way I was going to get more people engaged in active living and not a lifestyle, not lifestyle investments, but ones that would promote engagement in active, healthy living. And what I found in that process, I just couldn't identify enough opportunities that I could measure the impact. And Keith knows very well how tough it is to have measurable impact metrics, social impact. I mean, health investing and improving health outcomes is social impact, period. So while our activities and the brand of Relentless was growing, you know, digital health, preventative health, remote patient monitoring, it was something I always wanted to be specific about. So when we launched the Relentless Venture Fund, it is very specifically health tech. So we moved away from the sport, still get tons of deal flow with that, but you know, we are in a very unique area, not niche, unique, in that we're investing in the 4 most common conditions that are associated with aging that often start at a younger age, which is mental health and well-being, mobility, diabetes, and heart disease. They're also the most common comorbidities. So it's been, we're about to hit year 3. And the key part about how I got started in this, Reza, is with Relentless, I actually met Simon at an event where we were going on a 50K bike ride on a Friday night, and then we were hearing pitches over a barbecue. So everything started with biking and my love for biking and wanting to go ride with a bunch of guys on a Friday night. And the punchline for my day today and about what might form part of what's keeping me up at night these days is 12 days ago, I was actually in a pretty bad car crash. I was knocked off my bike. So I am coming to you live in a massive amount of pain. Can't stand long, can't sit for very long. And time my meds today just so that I could do this. But we appreciate it. I don't know if it's the irony of my life that this happened, but you know, in terms of mobility and mental well-being, I've never been more challenged than the last 2 weeks of my life. And I committed that I wasn't going to bail on Colin.
Wow. We appreciate it. We appreciate you being here. It brings tremendous amount of value for our audience. And it's crazy how putting yourself out there, going to some, you know, random events that you didn't really think about it much, it takes you to a completely brand new path. It seems like that was the case with Simon and you starting Relentless. I want to ask you, you've been in this industry for quite a long time. Has it shifted recently? Is there more attention to technology and health? Is there more exciting stuff happening? I guess more ventures or more people putting funds and investors coming your direction. Have you noticed anything?
On many levels. So 8 years ago, I can share candidly that my original objective was to start a seniors health fund, a longevity fund. And I spent 2.5 years, got 0 traction. So even though all the market statistics, everything, like even finding conferences in the States, and I found one, it's called a Boomer Conference. And it was, I can remember to this day, the tagline from one of the keynote speakers there is, what's your 50+ strategy? And it's like this universe of yes, we have diseases to cure, but there's so much going on that we need to do now and previously to just ensure that as we age, whether it's 20, 30, 40, 70, a dear friend of mine's a retired neurologist. He's a triathlete. I met him in our triathlon club. He's 74. like, aging does not mean lack of capacity, but there are things that we can do to enhance the ability to have a vital day after day. And so no traction, like 7 years ago. And finally, this one guy who's actually a retired professional cyclist from Austin that I met at an angel conference in the States said, Brenda, nobody wants to be reminded they're getting older. Right. Okay. So instead of healthy aging, I shifted to healthy living. It's the exact same thing. And the difference that COVID has made in terms of what's going on now, and even with what our fund is investing in, is we've been talking about remote patient monitoring and the ability to age in place and have all kinds of strategies at home. If you're the caregiver or the person managing a chronic condition, it has just taken everything. I mean, there's been tons of things written about telemedicine and like just as a category, but people now want to be able to have digital connections with their care community. They're demanding it. Consumer products are now being have evolved. Like Apple has products, Amazon has products that are enabling personal care in a whole new way. And even at Relentless, like patient-centered care is at the core of our investment decision making. Patient being the individual. Huge difference.
Wow. And
COVID has elevated it.
I can only imagine, COVID, how much it probably affected the whole industry. It's interesting because in previous episodes we've been talking about this in terms of startups in focused startups for baby boomers, lots of different ideas in that aspect, because lots of companies focus on younger people. It's interesting when I was getting all the attention as a millennial, because all the companies, all the investors, all the startups are focusing on my generation, and it's exciting until they're moving to Gen Z and they don't care about you as much. They're moving to the younger one because of the lifetime value of the customer. There's economic behind it. But previous episodes we discussed how baby boomers have huge potential because there are massive amount of population going to be 60 plus or 65 plus, and there's so many things they need and they're willing to pay for it, but nobody's paying attention to that market, especially in the startup community. I'm curious to know these days, beside what pandemic did to Relentless, and you can touch on that as well. But these days, are you more focused, which is the more challenging one, focused to get investors who are interested in what you guys are doing, or the ventures that are right up your alley and you can fund them? Which one is easier to find and which one is more difficult right now?
Intriguing question, because as we continue or focus on new fundraising efforts, my expectation is we will have a more expeditious process from or just getting people's attention, because we have been investing for a few years now in an area that is hot, not just from a private perspective, but in the public markets. So that is my expectation. I'll let you know in a few months from now. So let's check in. There is absolutely no issue with pipeline and deal flow. It is, and one of the challenges that I'm having right now, like a simple 12 days off of my being on my game, so to speak, is the beginning of January in health. There's a second week, JP Morgan week, biotech. There's like minimum five overlapping conferences. I participated, I spoke in two of them. And when I went for my bike ride on that Thursday night, it had been because I'd been in 3 different conferences that day, had all of these companies I'd connected, had asked for meetings, and then bam. So for me right now, I'm thinking, which ones am I missing out on? Because there are so many great opportunities, and I am very focused on increasing access to care. And there's a lot more money chasing it. So I'm expecting a lot of these deals to be more competitive.
Got it. Got it. Nice. And I'm assuming pandemic put a spotlight in health and technology. So there's some changes there over the past 10 months. Can you touch on what happened? Walk us through, first pandemic hits, March, April, May, what's going on in Relentless, and then how did you guys move on from there to now?
Well, because of the nature of our portfolio, the first thing I thought of is, well, aren't we going to get a lot of spotlight now because of the companies we've invested in? And we actually got 2 new deals done during the spring, early summer, which was pretty awesome. We have a small portfolio, but it's very targeted in its intention in our construction. So the first impact for me was in our portfolio and the teams that I'm working with is how is this going to affect the people that are in the process of either doing research and having to be collaborative in the lab. And in one case, Canary, we were trying to get surgeons to do some work with the embedded sensor to support data. I mean, in California where the core activity was. So it took us longer, and so it was a couple of months delay, but it could have been much worse in terms of getting that one package of data to finalize a submission with the FDA, which we're now on track, and there's going to be a new product, the first smart orthopedic in the world by the summer in our portfolio. So very exciting. Another company that's worth touching on is Aspect. They're in the business of 3D printing of biomaterials, and they had to go through the challenge of, okay, everybody's remote, but we really actually have to be in the lab to do some of this development work. And they ended up supersizing their space and in the area that they were now. So that was how they solved it. They just created a larger area for people to work with, work together, but safely. And the last thing I'll say out in terms of the impact for our portfolio, Newtopia, Snap Clarity, Orpix, all remote patient monitoring. So remote patient monitoring is I'll say it again, it is not niche, it's essential. And so I think I wrote a newsletter. I write a newsletter every couple of months, and Relentless Roundup, if you want to subscribe. And I put a heading. It's like, we didn't intend to build a COVID portfolio, but here we are. Like every single one of our companies.
Wow. Brenda, I have to kind of wrap it up so my co-hosts have time. They are smarter than me, so I want them to jump in and ask more questions, especially in this sector. I'm not as familiar. I'm learning as I speak with you, but I want to make a comment how I love how you opened up with your passion around the social impact this movement is having. There are a lot of venture funds that they say, we love this sector because there's a lot of movement. We can make good investment money back and we can attract investors to come in. Whereas you are aligned with the entrepreneur. You want to make the social impact the same way that founder who came up with the idea wants to make an impact.
Thank you.
So these are the type of venture funds that I believe attracts the right deal flows and right entrepreneurs want to work with you because they know they have somebody who understands everybody's interests and who would be aligned with them. And at the same time, I'm sure you are understanding what the interests of investors are. So you're aligning all these deals to make sure things move forward. So a lot of great ideas don't end up in the graveyard of a startup world. So amazing.
Thanks, Reza.
stuff.
I appreciate it.
I really enjoyed that at the very beginning. I was like, this is the type of person that if I was in healthcare sector, I would love to work with. I'm going to open it up to Colin and Maryam. If you guys have any other questions you want to ask.
Yeah, Maryam, why don't you go first?
Sure. It's not so much of a question, but Brenda, this is actually the area that I'm focused on. And I feel like being connected to the transformative technology, I don't know if you've heard of Transformative Technology Lab from Stanford, that community is there. And I launched the Vancouver chapter back in 2019. And the focus is on mental health, emotional well-being, and human thriving. So any tech that helps in that area. And I believe you can find a lot of amazing entrepreneurs we have over for example, 1,000 right now, people in our community on our platform. And there's just a lot of amazing people. And I feel that's, I need to connect you to
Yeah,
that
that'd be
community.
great.
Yeah.
That would be great. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. I feel that they would really benefit from you, and you get to see like a lot of amazing people in that community.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Brenda, I had a question for you. This is for entrepreneurs out there. And I know when I started my journey in entrepreneurship, whatever, 7, 8 years ago, and we started to talk to investors or think we need to talk to angel investors, and there's that confusion. Oh, you just talk to everybody, or what do you do? And of course, not all to investors, investor houses are the same. So can you provide, as a term I only heard a couple of years ago, what your investment thesis is? And I know you articulated that, but maybe you can provide that more as a tagline. So people, entrepreneurs out there, are considering, well, maybe I should talk to Brenda to see if there's some alignment there. So perhaps you can provide us with the investment thesis for what you do with Relentless.
I'll give you a paraphrase version, since my head is a little bit foggy, and I'm going to pull this up right now. Is we're a health tech venture fund that invests in the most common conditions associated with aging that promote optimal living and vitality. Like I don't break. I mean, that's it. Like that is the starting point. And we are looking to increase access to care, and are very focused on the individual, which I mentioned earlier. That may sound general, but when you drill down into the 4 areas I mentioned, mental well-being, mobility, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes, if you look at something like Aspect, because Aspect is known for their 3D printing of materials in a lab business, but they have a regenerative medicine program where they are printing living cells that will be a complete difference maker for a type 1 diabetic and a functional pancreas, not a full pancreas, but helping with the pancreas. So it's about having the conversation with people. And the other tip I give to entrepreneurs is there's 2 quick tips. One is when investors say no, not now, they usually actually mean it, that it's a timing issue, and just figure out, is it a timing issue or a lack of thesis fit? And the other one is, within funds, finding your champion is the ultimate goal. It's not the fund, it's the individual in the fund that will be your champion. And you never know if that person, for example, my mother has very advanced Parkinson's. I don't share that often, but once in a while I'll make a comment social media wise. And when I'm looking at cognitive health, neurodegenerative diseases, which we're adding with our next fund, it's like when I see Parkinson's showing up, I'm gravitating to that over the others. So finding your internal champion in a fund is probably more important than finding the fund that's the fit.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, and that just builds upon building relationships,
Yes.
Authentic relationships with people over time. And that's one thing. A lot of entrepreneurs out there think they're showing some hustle by just getting out there and getting in front of people's face. Well, not right now with COVID, but virtually in front of their face.
Yes.
But you have to build a relationship, and you have to find commonalities. And you just mentioned what you've done. My mother also suffered with Parkinson's and dementia also, so I can certainly relate to that.
Yeah.
and send my best wishes to you. And thank you for making the effort to be here today, Brenda, because I know what you just divulged, it hasn't been easy. So I'm going to do you a favor and let you kind of turn your brain off a little bit here, so you don't have to think quite so hard to come up with the quality responses you just did. So with that, I'm going to now turn it over to Maryam. You're welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Maryam.
I'm going to turn my video off as well and go sit on the recliner.
Of course.
Lay on the recliner.
You please
but I'm
relax.
still here.
Okay. Thanks so much, Brenda. Okay, great to see you. So Maryam, I want to turn it over to you and Gary. So take it away, you two.
Thanks, Colin. And thanks again, Brenda. We're grateful to have you here. Welcome, Gary. Super excited to, touch base and get all the updates of what's happening with you. Really want to touch on, because I know there's a lot going on, give us a little bit about the past, present, and the future of DDP. I know you guys started in 2009. If you have the metrics of like how many parties you hosted, what are I mean, I know you've done some amazing work also with, since COVID started, how that whole, hosting parties in like public spaces that changed into virtual experiences. Want to touch on that. And then the future, like what you're launching next week. So welcome to the show, and tell us about DDP.
Thank you for having me. It is a long story, epic journey, but luckily we have a 1-minute encapsulation of everything.
Amazing.
This handy video right here. Hi, I'm Gary of Tom and Gary's Decentralized Dance Party. For 10 years, we hosted gigantic open source parties all over the world. We did this using an FM radio transmitter to broadcast out to hundreds of boomboxes, creating a mobile, synchronized sound system. These parties completely transform public space, allowing total strangers to instantly connect on a deep human level. Our ultimate goal was always to host a simultaneous global party that would unite the world in celebration and earn us the Nobel Peace Prize. When the pandemic canceled everything, we began hosting virtual parties and quickly realized that by linking giant portable speakers to our virtual world, we could now create mixed reality global celebrations. The pandemic had revealed the key to uniting the world. This film will chart the trials and triumphs leading to a Nobel Prize-worthy celebration.
The party revolution needs you.
I love it. That was amazing. So tell us a little bit like about how this transition happened. When COVID hit, what did you do? What was that like? What was that transition like? And what I love and appreciate about you is that you're very experiential. You're always experimenting and improvising and doing things. So what has all that experimentation, the result of all that experimentation, has got you to where you are now?
Yeah, so we did these parties in the streets for a decade before the pandemic hit, and we always had our eye on doing a simultaneous global party, and we're sort of experimenting here and there with technology. We always thought virtual parties didn't sound very cool or very much fun, but when the pandemic hit, we didn't really have a choice, so just jumped in and started experimenting with those, and we learned on Zoom it's pretty cool. I don't know if I have the access, but it's all about the spotlight. So you see a lot of virtual parties, it's just a stream of a DJ turning knobs or whatever, and to me that's very not exciting or something I want to tune into. But with the parties, the way we've done them on Zoom is it's all about the participants, so it's all about spotlighting people and giving them, that's their moment on stage. People get super hyped up when they can see each other, and now with the latest versions of Zoom you can have 4 people at once. And we realized too that it's kind of this new form, my friend calls it human jockeying. So instead of just DJing, you're actually hosting the party, playing music, and you're like putting people up on screen at the same time, and super rad because it can be anyone, anywhere, all over the world. We just did a party with this super cool group that we're part of, Co-Reality Collective, where it was a New Year's party that went all around the globe, and we celebrated every countdown in every single time zone. So
tell me about that, because that platform looked amazing. What was that platform you were on?
In the video?
No, for the New Year's. I remember, so I don't know, there was a platform, maybe it was like the Burning Man platform that you get to, it was sort of, you would see an island, and was that the platform that you were using?
Yeah, it's called Sparkleverse. It's this new open source software that my friends built. And yeah, it's basically an interactive map. So it's kind of like a little village on your computer screen. And then in that, they used it for, it was one of the Burning Man universes in the multiverse. And it lets anyone create a camp. And then you can navigate around it on walking or on a bike. And then you can plug in Zoom rooms or anything you want, digital art. So basically a really cool platform you can navigate. And yeah, we've been doing these parties together since April and realized that this is kind of like a whole new reimagining of like what a social network is. But it's all open source, so it's not some extractive project with just a few shareholders at the top. It's just built by people who want to hang out together and love creating and expressing. And so yeah, we're calling it a new social network based on love, which perfectly aligns with what we're doing with the parties. So
I love it. And did you try other platforms like Twitch or other platforms just to see what did you find? Were you on Twitch at all?
no, I haven't used Twitch. As far as I know, it's just kind of a one-way platform. Like, we started on Zoom, and it's so far it's the perfect platform for hosting parties. Like the audio quality is great, and it's just all about getting people to set up like the virtual backgrounds. You can get all the crazy Snapchat filters and totally customize it.
So in the past, how were you, I know that you would fly into different cities. How were you funding these parties in the past? And what is your plan for the future?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting conundrum because these parties aren't necessarily legal to be doing. You're supposed to have a permit for pretty much anything elaborate that you do in public. And the way we do this is basically we have a starting point, hand out the boom boxes, and then we map out the route in advance. But we'll have hundreds of boom boxes, thousands of people, and it's kind of this spontaneous roaming party adventure. So there's no way to really get a permit for something like that. And if you can't have a permit, you can't have a sponsor because no one wants the liability. So
how long does it take to get a permit usually for your parties?
I don't know. We've never had one.
Oh, you said, oh, sorry. You said you never had a permit. Okay, gotcha. They were just sort of like people were supporting you because I know RCMP and everyone, they were just very supportive, right?
Yeah, it's been amazing how, like, we always thought the police were going to shut us down, but we always showed up with a good attitude, very respectful, and wearing ridiculous bright costumes and putting off a good vibe. So pretty much every single party, almost 100 parties we've done now, they just have showed up and gave us an escort through the city, which is just this amazing, beautiful
That's amazing.
phenomenon.
And
But
how are you funding some of these parties in the past?
we've done crowdfunding as much as possible, decentralized fundraising, and just donations. Had some nice crypto donations over the years, and this whole thing is supposed to be an embodiment of open source decentralization, new forms of social organizing based on intentions of community and togetherness. So yeah, it's been an amazing thing to be a part of. And
I love it. Tell me a little bit about the decentralized crowdfund platform that you're working on, Swarm, is that right?
So we've had this idea for winning the Nobel Prize for partying for many years now. We feel like it takes a long time to, like, you have to really experience one of these things to see, but it's kind of like this joy riot, joy mob where everyone is just instantly connected. No ego, no inhibitions, just on the same fun party level. And we figure if we can do this, like, we figure this thing has the potential to stop wars and stop conflict. Based on a really amazing story most people have probably heard is the Christmas truce of 1914, World War I, where the Germans and British were having trench warfare, and then they started singing and a party broke out, and basically people who were like mortal enemies all of a sudden were partying together. So we do figure that it's possible to wage peace with these new sound systems. So we had an idea for, instead of selling war bonds as governments used to do to raise money for a war, we would sell peace bonds, $1 million
Love it.
worth of peace bonds to raise the money to do a world tour and activate people globally to do these parties. And that was about 7 years ago. And now finally there's this really cool new technology called NFTs, non-fungible tokens, that it's really taken off. So I have
Tell us about it.
some of the art here for, this is the $100 peace bond.
Oh, amazing.
And my friend Tana made the art. Really
Beautiful.
great.
I couldn't agree with you more about, if all the leaders of the world, they get together, they would do a, psychedelic journey together and join one of your parties, then we wouldn't be in this mess.
I agree. And yeah, these parties are kind of a psychedelic journey. And
Yeah.
we have a whole party manifesto that's all about how you create an awesome enough party atmosphere, then the party itself can release you from your inhibitions. You might not even need the psychedelic assistance.
Yeah, that's what I heard from your, so that it's not a party where people do drugs or alcohol. You just, it's people just show up and
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah, that's the goal. And that's why this has worked out for 11
You're
years.
just being
100
state.
parties.
You don't really need some sort of something external to change your state. You just show up, and that's like the energy of the people, and everyone is like partying, and it's amazing, a good time. So tell us about the so where are you taking this now?
Well, the plan is to launch the peace bonds. We got an opportunity to do the DDD at Ethereum Denver conference, which I think is pretty much the preeminent crypto conference, and they have a huge section that's all about NFTs and digital art. So the plan is to launch there, and hopefully we'll sell enough peace bonds to raise what we need to get the documentary finished. And then the documentary tells the DDP story, and it's a call to action to activate as many people as possible around the world, and hopefully complete the peace bond sale, and then fulfill the message in this quote here, which has been very inspiring for us. And I think, yeah, as dismal and crazy as the world might look, like the open source revolution and all these new sound system technologies, like, I think these are the means to organize as effectively as those who love war. Finally, we have these tools.
Yeah, I love your mission, and I'm wondering, how much do you need to finish the documentary? Do you have a number in mind?
Still finalizing the budget, but probably about 150K USD. I think we've raised somewhere around 40 so far, just starting out.
And
So
where can our community contribute to this fund?
they go to theddp.com, theddp.com. You can find all the info there. And yeah, the plan with these peace bonds, we're still figuring out exactly how it's going to work, but it's really cool how these NFTs function. Like, it's a digital token, so you can receive airdrops. So the idea is that once we win this Nobel Peace Prize, which is about $1 million, everyone gets paid back. But just by holding these NFTs, like, some of these things are that started out worth hardly anything, now they've appreciated in value to like $100,000. So these are going to be very special, unique pieces of digital art, and also physical art that you can print out. And now they have picture frames for NFTs. And yeah, the NFT world, I've just been learning about it the last couple of weeks, exploring. It's like,
I gotta learn more about that. I really gotta look into that for sure.
yeah, that could be a whole show in itself. It's
Yeah, I would love to dive in a little bit more into it and figure out, like, where do you start with that? What was your starting point, and how did you come across this?
I guess And I was sort of aware of it as I've been deep in the crypto scene for a long time. Didn't think too much about it. I was always really into the idea of tokenization, which is like you can have fractional ownership of basically anything now, like a house, a road, someone's education, like everything in the world can be broken into an infinite number of tokens, and then anyone anywhere can invest in any idea and receive dividends back from it. So I was aware of that, but didn't really think too much about NFTs as like tokenized art. But it's like completely changes everything in terms of like copyright and digital ownership of anything digital or physical. Like any artist can create a limited edition of like a physical image or a song or a movie. Anything can be an NFT or be broken into thousands of pieces and then instantly licensed all over the world without any intermediary company to take a profit. So it's a way to directly connect people, and you can cut out all the centralized payment processors too. So
yeah, well, that's the future, right? I love it.
so.
I'd love to learn more about it and see how I can incorporate it too into my business. So definitely, I know you have a lot of knowledge in that area. I'm just going to pause here. There's a lot more questions, but I'm just going to open it up to Reza and Colin and our guests to see if they have any questions for you. Colin, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, well, this is amazing, Gary, what you're doing here. And it so aligns with our kind of our values and our why with Startup Vancouver, but taking it to that next global level, right? We're all about, love, kindness will prevail, and will always defeat hatred, ignorance, and disrespect. And what you're doing here, it excites me. And seeing that you've been on this journey for over 10 years. I love your first video actually was using an iPod that you're changing the volume. It's that's proof of how long you've been at this, even pre iPhone. So it's almost like you I wouldn't say in this game too early, probably just at the right time, but it almost seems the last 10 years has been your warm-up act, and now you're ready to take this like next level and beyond. So what's the thing that most excites you over the next couple of years to kind of get to that global level with the DDP?
I guess it's going to be exciting to finally get this documentary done. I've been trying to make it for about 8 years now, and it's a long story. There's like 3,000 hours of footage, but yeah, I've been a filmmaker most of my life and love telling stories and really want to tell this story. And I think it has the power to really inspire a huge shift in the world. So just to have that together and be able to share that and lead with it, because this is a very strange, unique, unprecedented thing that we've been experimenting with and putting together. It really needs a good pitch behind it so people can get on board, and it's never had that. So it'll be exciting to finally get that done and get that out there.
Absolutely. And they say in entrepreneurship, timing is everything. You can have the team, you can have the idea, the ability to execute, but seems like the planets are aligning on timing. And the fact you and Tom, obviously the other half of Tom and Gary's dance party, or sorry, decentralized dance party, is making this happen. So we definitely have to have you back in whatever 6 months, a year, to get another check-in to see where you are and how you progress with this. So hey, Gary, want to thank you for this today. Hey, Reza, I'd like you to jump in, but we do have to be respectful of time. We want to get Keith on here, so why don't you just hang on to any questions that you have here. Maryam, thanks so much for leading that conversation, and Gary, that's awesome, amazing, and thanks for sharing the love. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely.
And yeah, one last thought was just that it's great that we've never compromised on the vision so far. Like, we've been approached by MTV and other people, and we've always wanted to keep this open and decentralized and copyright free, available to everyone. So
Love that.
The means is now there.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You are welcome. So now, returning guest. I guess it's our first returning guest on the show. So Keith, always with a first. So happy to introduce again Keith Ippel, the CEO and founder of Spring Activator. So Keith, let's start things off. Since the last 8 months we talked, let's talk about you personally. How are you doing? How are you doing to kind of stay engaged and balanced? It's always about, balance. How are you doing, and how are you managing to maintain some balance and uniformity in your life?
Yeah, it's such a great question. On one side, as you know, I was doing a ton of travel before the lockdown, with all of the work that Spring has been doing in other parts of the world, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and in Europe. And so, on one level, it's been fantastic, right? Like, I've been home and get a chance to obviously spend a lot of quality time with my family. But I would say too that as an entrepreneur support organization, we really, this crisis has been kind of the time to shine for all of us entrepreneur support organizations like Startup Vancouver and ourselves. And so, it was pretty full on from, the middle of March and still now. And so overall good, like just trying to stay healthy with sleep and, the right diet and getting a bit of exercise. I will honor the fact that like November was definitely like a down month. And I don't mean that in an overly bad way by any means, but it was like, that was the low energy month. That was the month where it was like, we had a little bit of a lift from the lockdown. And then it was in October, it was at the end of October, beginning of November, when they reasserted like a deeper lockdown. The weather turned here in Vancouver. And so I think myself, along with a lot of other people that I know, also felt that. And so, November was a month to kind of push through that, lean on some friends, lean on some family, just make sure to take good care of myself. And then, it's been pretty good. Like really overall, it's been pretty good. I can't complain, really, all things considered.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you and I jumped on a phone call in November just to have a discovery session of where we can collaborate over the short, mid, and long term with Spring and Startup Vancouver. And on that call, I'm glad you actually said it first, because I picked up when I left there. You sounded like, I've known you now for what, oh gosh, 6-7 years now. You sounded overwhelmed. You sounded a bit tired. You sounded really stressed out. And I've never heard you like that. And I thought, I left that call, it's like, you don't sound quite right. So I didn't want to put you on the spot here, but you acknowledge that. And for everyone out there, we're going to be talking about this tomorrow night, of course, with mental health for entrepreneurs or for anyone, removing that stigma behind that. It's okay not to feel okay sometimes, and reach out to friends. And you did that rather than doing what a lot of entrepreneurs do, and even worse, what a lot of men do, and that's just bury it. That's what we grew up with, kind of that toxic culture, and figuring that it's our own problem to solve, to kind of power through. And the fact that, maybe you can talk about more about that, the fact you reached out to friends that you then had the trust in to receive well. You allowed yourself to receive well, which is something where I'm trying to do more these days.
Yeah, I think the important part is that, especially in a time like this, right? Crisis, recession, we have to also honor that, when we reach out first, as you said, like I think each one of us has people that we can trust when we really look in the mirror and think about our communities wrapped around us. The second thing too, is it's important to reach out to multiple people, right? Because some people are really in a place of abundance, like they're in a good place and they can provide support. And then on the other end of the spectrum, maybe some other people aren't as ready, or aren't as, capable of providing support at this time. But that's not a bad thing. Like, we're all in it together. But I think creating that practice of asking for help, and just being willing to share, is, and when you're good, like being able to offer help, I think is really important. And so, for me, very exciting that you will be doing that event this week on mental health, because it's such a, critical aspect of where we are as a society right now. And it's always under discussed, under talked about, underrepresented in the discourse. So I'm really glad you guys are in there.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. So, and thank you for sharing and being open about, how you've been, if you want to say, how you were struggling back in November, and how you met or have working towards getting yourself in a better place. I can already tell just by your body language and your energy and your voice that that you're in a better place because you addressed it, and I'm happy to see that. So I do want to switch gears rather than you personally here over to spring right now. And with spring, you've been doing for the last few years of really pivoting or expanding your kind of business model and your why and your purpose with spring and in the social impact entrepreneurship space to really be active on a global basis. You've been doing amazing work helping to build ecosystems in Eastern Europe, in Central and South America, and in Vietnam, and I believe other parts of Asia. So Keith, tell us how you're managing to keep that alive and thriving and expanding that in a virtual way, that level of engagement. Please tell us what you're doing on a global basis yourself and with Spring.
So I think collectively, all of us benefit. And actually, when Gary was talking about DDP, try and pull that off, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, it would have been hard for a lot of reasons, right? And the biggest reason is because people would have said, online, distributed, really, why don't we put 500 people into a building and then have fun, or in our case, working in communities where, if you weren't physically on the ground, you couldn't do the work is how people felt. And so one of the unintended benefits of this whole crisis that we've been going through is people are now very comfortable asking for help, very comfortable seeking support, training, mentorship, access to capital in online and distributed ways. And so, we've really seen that kind of mainstreaming of support. So for us, the work that we have done has continued to grow in all of the areas that we've talked about: Southeast Asia, LATAM, and in Europe as well. And then we've seen a lot more work in smaller communities around Canada. And I think that's actually a huge benefit coming out of this crisis, is that traditionally people were very kind of place-based in support, in training, in capital. And now people, I would say what's been interesting is they're leaning in even harder place-based. And so what I mean by that is, I'm in Whitehorse, I'm going to support the people around me. I'm going to ask for help in the community. But now people are fearless to go online, whether it's in Zoom like this, or in other means, to ask for help, to look for capital, to get resources and support. And so for us, that's really just to help to accelerate our growth. So continuing to do work actually across Southeast Asia. So our footprint is kind of from India to the Philippines. In LATAM, continue to do some work in Central America and South America, especially around Peru. And in Europe, still doing a lot of work in the Balkans, so Serbia, Bosnia, Macedonia, or North Macedonia, Albania, Kosovo, that whole region. And it's been really exciting. So, over the last 9 months, we've doubled the team. So we've doubled the team in size, and we hired our first person in Toronto. We hired our first person in the US. So now we have also been able to embrace a fully distributed team, which has been pretty amazing.
Nice. And you're also providing great digital content and virtual content also. And I believe, actually, if I'm not mistaken, you have an event tomorrow night at the same time as we're having our canned startup stories. And like I said, we all play in the same sandbox here. So happy for you. I'm not going to say, no, we're not going to talk about Keith's event because I want everybody to come to our event. We're going to record our event. So if you want to watch the spring event tomorrow and participate, you can watch ours afterwards. So why don't you give a plug on what you and your team are doing tomorrow with spring?
Yeah, so I'll give a plug and I'll give a teaser at the same time. So the plug is, tomorrow night we're hosting an event for people who are actively impacting investing. So that, for example, includes people like Brenda with Relentless, as well as people who are angel investing, early stage investing, and are looking to make the world a better place. And the And the focus of that event is to also help people who are curious about impact investing. And so when I say impact investing, it means, how can you get involved in investing to make the world a better place? And so we have Leah Nguyen from TELUS Pollinator Fund. We've got Narinder Dami from Marigold Capital, Katri from MNP, Mike from DLA Piper. And so we're going to have two amazing panels, chunk of networking time. We're actually going to be using a platform called Hopin, which we've used before, which is fantastic for kind of mixing in networking and main stage. And so that'll be a lot of fun. And that'll be the first Impact Investor Summit we run this year. We're going to be running one on February 17th. That'll be focused on the Yukon. One on February 24th. That will be focused on the Okanagan. So tonight is actually going to be the first of what will ultimately become several. So it's really exciting. The people looking to invest for good, it has exploded since the start of the COVID crisis. You know, I think it was already building previously as people started to worry about the climate and the environment, social justice issues, equity, and then that all got amplified in COVID. And so it's really, you know, it's a significant amount of momentum, and we're excited about it.
Nice, yeah. Nice. So just to finish up here, just to kind of pull all the way back for some entrepreneurs out there, whether they're creating a product, an experience, or a combination thereof. If they still don't know what that definition of social impact entrepreneurship is, or a startup or early growth company, I know there's a wide spectrum or a net that you can cast for that. There's not one size fits all, but perhaps you can give some examples of different sectors for people out there that are wondering, do I actually qualify? I'm not a nonprofit, which you don't need to be a nonprofit to Correct. Be a for-profit company to have social impact. Perhaps you can kind of succinctly let entrepreneurs or founders out there know if potentially what they're creating has social impact and they don't even know it.
Yeah, so think about creating impact in your business as two things. One is the work that you do, product you have, as well as how you do it, right? So interestingly enough, all businesses can be impact businesses as a result, right? Because it's that combination of either product or service and or how you run the business itself. You will often find, for example, healthcare, clean tech, food and agriculture, education as being kind of hallmark areas. Sustainability will be hallmark areas where you'll see impact happening. But I've seen fantastic e-commerce businesses, marketplace businesses. Gary's business is an impact business, right? And so it's that mix of like, what is the vision? What's the alignment? And so forth. Brenda's business is an impact business. She's brokering capital between her fund and entrepreneurs, but that capital is designed to catalyze and amplify, you know, innovative health for the benefit of everyone. That is an impact business, right? So she's a capital business. Gary's an entertainment business. They're both impact. And so it's really exciting time.
Nice. Thank you for that, Keith, to clarify
of course.
That. We are past the top of the hour, but you know, we could run a couple of minutes over here. That's what we can do here. The beauty of Zoom. We don't have a next show bumping up against us. So I do want to give Maryam and Reza, and even Gary, if you want, or Brenda, anybody want to jump in and ask Keith any questions here regarding all the good things that he's doing?
Yeah, Keith, I'm just wondering that the entrepreneurs that you work with who are working in the area of, you know, social impact, what have you noticed in their own personality and the way they themselves treat themselves and their lives that has a ripple effect into their business? And who they are as a person? What sort of attributes do they have?
Maybe I'm going to get.
I think you are frozen.
Did we lose him there for a second?
For a second, I was like, why is he so serious? I didn't realize like he froze. I'm like, why do you look so serious about this question?
Looks like technology has failed us. We've overwhelmed. Well, maybe because we're over the hour here, and Keith's had enough. But I don't know if he's going to come back here. So maybe that. No, great question, Maryam. But why don't we just hold off on that? And hey, why don't we just wrap up the show for today? As we have Keith there just frozen. Gary's looking very, very stern there, so he looks frozen. Nope, he just moved. I saw it. There we go. There he's
moving.
He is. So we've lost Keith here. Brenda's back on to say, and Brenda, again, thanks so much. So to end the show today, Reza, hey, why don't you close the show for us here today, buddy?
Thank you, Colin. Great show. Just wanted to make a quick comment how Gary, what you shared with us, we have a startup community and there's a lot to learn from Gary and his persistency over the past many years, that he's doing what he is doing. And I love how you found your voice online and all the tools we have. It's making it possible for us to do good things, to find a voice online and create a community around it. So great stuff. I'm learning a lot as an entrepreneur from what you shared. That's episode 42. Crazy. Join us next week, Tuesday at 12. No, 12. So sorry, I'm mixing it up. 11:45. We're gonna kickstart, but at 12 o'clock. Join us for episode 43.
Go.
Thank you,
Thanks so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks for
everyone.
being here.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.
Hopefully, we have singing next week.
Absolutely.
You hear your
For
music?
sure. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
There we go.
See you.
Thanks.
Bye.